Hi guys, welcome back to Best of Birth Worlds. My name is Kayla and I am your host today. Today's podcast is going to be a chit-chatty Q&A video all about labor and delivery. So go and grab yourselves a drink. I have my Coke right here. Go and get yourselves something to drink and sit down and have a little chit-chat with me. I'm going to answer some of your guys' questions, some of them from TikTok, some of them from Instagram. So that is what we're going to be doing today. So let's get into it. So the first of our questions comes from TikTok. I asked over my TikTok what you guys had, like questions that you guys have, and someone asked, are you able to have an OB and a doula? Yes. A doula does not replace the spot of an OB. A doula is not a medical professional. We are not catching the babies. We are not diagnosing you. We are not doing anything of that sort. A doula is essentially just extra support. A doula is just a support person that is there to help you and is hired by you and that is not governed by the hospital. And so we do not have to abide by their rules, I guess I could say. And that's what makes a doula so much different than any other birth worker, is because we don't have the corporates above us saying what we can and cannot do. Obviously, like, we can't diagnose you and do stuff like that, but a lot of nurses and doctors will tell you do not eat in labor, and that's just because of their hospital policy, and us doulas are just not bound by hospital policy. And that's like the biggest difference, is that we are able to be there for you and not the hospital, if that makes sense. But we do not replace a OBGYN or a midwife. We do not replace either of those, and that is like the biggest difference. Someone says, does it cut down on the amount of people you can have in the room if you have a doula in the room? Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. It really all depends on your specific hospital. Some hospitals deem a doula as a visitor, and other hospitals do not. So it all really depends on your specific hospital. So if you are worried about that, call up your hospital and be like, hey, what is your policy on this? Do you see doulas as a visitor? So on and so forth. So someone asked, the best advice to have a successful VBAC. I'm so nervous I will have a failed VBAC. I am so sorry that you were so scared, but the number one tip that I have for a VBAC is to have a provider that is pro VBACs, not just one that like will tolerate them, but one that is like cheering you on the sidelines, like, yes, let's do this, let's get you your vaginal birth after your cesarean. If you guys don't know, that is what VBAC stands for, is vaginal birth after cesarean. What we call it when you're actually in labor going for a VBAC is a TOLAC, that stands for trial of labor after cesarean. So that is like the trial of labor. That's just the labor part after you've actually given birth. That's when it's called a VBAC. But yeah, that is like my biggest tip, is to find a provider that is not only supportive of them, but like actually cheering you on and not going to be like, oh no, the little slightest hiccup, C-section, So if you don't know, I did have a unmedicated delivery for my last birth, my third birth, and someone asked me, what helped you the most during your natural delivery? The thing that helped me the absolute most was my team. Truthfully, I decided to pick a hospital an hour away from where I live simply because of the staff. The staff, I've given birth to all three of my babies there, and they are just like incredible. I cannot tell you, like, I cannot put into words how much these people mean to me. They are just like such incredible people, and so I decided to go an hour away just to be with them. And that was like truthfully the best thing that I had ever done. I had actually, in the beginning of my pregnancy, I was like, okay, I will go to the new clinic here, because we had moved right before I got pregnant, and we went to the new clinic. I did not like the midwives. And so I was like, I am going back to my old midwives, whom I love, whom I trust. And truthfully, they got me through my unmedicated birth, like in more ways than one. They were just truly incredible. And not only my midwife, but also the entire staff at the hospital, like all of the nurses. My nurse If you're watching this, Catherine, which I guarantee you're not, but if you are watching this, like, you got me through my birth. She did counter pressure on my back for an hour straight. For an hour and a half straight until I had my baby. She did counter pressure, which is where they just like push on your hips, on your sides. Like, I guarantee her arms and everything was hurting by the time she was done. But she was a trooper, and she was so incredible. But that's what really got me through my unmedicated birth. And one thing that you can do as well is learn breathing techniques. Breathing will be your number one best friend, because if you're not breathing, you're freaking out and you're screaming, and that is not good. It clenches you up. It holds all of that in, and it's not able to let you dilate and progress properly, and it makes it hurt worse. So something that I get all the time is people saying, I'm so sorry if this is a dumb question. I don't want to ask a dumb question. And honestly, there are no dumb questions when it comes to birth. There is so much that is just like not talked about with birth and postpartum and pregnancy and all of that, that there is no dumb questions. So if you have a question, ask it, look it up online, talk to your doctor. Also, never take anything that I say or anyone else says on the internet as your proof. You need to always, always, always speak to your provider. But someone says, what is postpartum? They are talking about like the period of postpartum. Postpartum is the period after you have a baby. That is called postpartum. Someone is actually postpartum until they are about 2 years. Postpartum is really when your body like stops changing as much. But truthfully, for me, postpartum will always... Why are my birds chirping right now? Hey, chill. So sorry. Okay, I got them to be quiet. But anyway, postpartum just refers to the stage after you have a baby. So for me, I don't really care if you are 100 years postpartum, you are still postpartum. But in the medical textbooks, if you are about 18 months to 2 years postpartum, that is really the postpartum period. And that is really when your body like stops all of the changes, essentially, when your body goes back to normal, quote unquote. This next one is very, very, very important because I get it all day, every day, 24/7. Someone says, do the dates and tea really work? They're talking about dates and tea for inducing labor. There is no real like scientific evidence that it will actually put you into labor or help with your labor. It's really just anecdotal evidence, and I'm not going to tell you one way or the other because the science is just not there. So it really can't hurt, essentially, unless you are doing blackberry tea, sometimes raspberry tea. Always talk to your provider about what they recommend. Whether you try anything, just always consult your doctor. Someone also asked, how bad is postpartum depression? I have diagnosed depression already, and I'm terrified it will make it worse. This is something that I can't really answer, because it is different for everyone, and it truly, postpartum depression is not picky at who it chooses. After I had my first baby, I had postpartum anxiety. Unfortunately, I had no clue that it was postpartum anxiety. I thought that like all the things I was feeling was normal. I went onto my mommy Facebook group and was like, hey, I'm feeling this way. Is this normal? And they were like, oh, essentially that's normal. I was describing me being worried that my baby was going to die in the middle of the night. And that was really hard to like hear that like, oh, this is normal. And I was like, is this just like going to be my life now? It was severe to the point where I didn't sleep. I just didn't sleep because I would just watch my baby's chest rise and fall. That was like really, really hard for me because I had no clue. At that time, I gave birth when I was 19 years old, and I had no clue that postpartum anxiety was even a thing. I had no clue that it was even a thing. I had heard about postpartum depression, like that was talked about. No clue that postpartum anxiety was also a thing, and that like you could feel these things. And if you are feeling these immense sense of doom, essentially, go talk to your doctor. I wish someone had just like told me, hey, talk to your doctor, because what you're feeling is just not normal. It's not normal. After I had my second baby, I felt very, very depressed. Like not eating. I lost all of my birth weight and then some by the time I was about 3 weeks postpartum. It's normal to lose some weight, not that fast. Since I gained 30 pounds, I think it was like 31 or 32 pounds during that pregnancy. I lost it all in 3 weeks. And it's because I wasn't eating. I was not eating. I was sleeping a ton. I was so depressed. And about a week before my 6-week checkup, I was like, okay, I'm going to talk to my doctor about this. And it's really true what they say, that like asking for help is the hardest step. Unfortunately, I got to my 6-week visit to ask for some medication. I'd been on Zoloft during my first and my second pregnancy because of immense depression during my pregnancy. That's also another thing that people just don't talk about. They don't talk about how you can also get pregnancy depression. But I was like, I need medication. I looked at my midwife and I said, hey, I need medication. And she looks at me and says, just try exercising. I will never forget the look on her face when she said that. I was like, okay. In my head, I'm thinking, I want to actually die, not exercise, you know? And that was like really hard for me to hear. Actually, once I got on medication, I started exercising. It would help with my depression for a little bit, and then it wouldn't. It would help for like maybe 20 minutes afterwards. That's not enough for someone that has postpartum depression. Just saying. It's not a fix. It's really not a fix, because it is postpartum hormones and your brain chemistry. I had already been diagnosed with actual depression just a few years before that, and so that was really hard to hear, that like, just exercise. Okay, but it's not like a guarantee at how bad it's going to be for you. With my third baby, I didn't actually start getting depressed until I was 5 months postpartum. I got on medication again and it worked. I was great, and then I got off and I've been great ever since. But it's not like a how bad is it truly, because it really all depends on the person. It really all depends on you and your body and how it handles the postpartum hormones. That postpartum hormone drop is significant, and it's hard to deal with. It's very hard to manage how you're going to even deal with that. And so it really all depends on you. So I don't really have an answer for you, but I do have to say that if you do start feeling depressed, if you do start feeling all these immense, intense emotions, always reach out to your doctor. They are able to help. Okay, and the next question comes from my friend Kara. You guys probably know her as Kara the baby nurse, and she asked me, most unexpected part of each of your births. This one's gonna be a while because it's quite a lot. My first delivery, honestly, all of it, like every single part of my birth, I did not expect. After I got the epidural, it was like smooth sailing, but it's a new experience. Like, you never know what you're going to expect, and like all of it was brand new to me. I had no clue what was even going to happen. But yeah, like the entire birth was just like very unexpected for me. With my second delivery, I stopped dilating at 8 centimeters. I was 8 centimeters dilated for hours. They tried getting me up into different positions. They tried like moving me like a rotisserie chicken. We did all the things and have no clue what exactly happened. But I just like stopped dilating. So what had happened was they gave me Pitocin. I still was not dilating. I have a very, very, very stubborn cervix, and yeah, it's not the greatest. So what happened was my midwife came in and was like, okay, we're going to just push your cervix the rest of the way out of the way. I think I was like 9 centimeters by that point. but she just pushed the rest of my cervix out of the way, and that is how I delivered my second baby. My third delivery was, again, my only unmedicated delivery, and truly, like, the entire birth I just, like, did not expect at all. But the number one thing that I didn't expect was how fast it would go. With all of my other births, my first 2 births, I had an epidural, and they broke my water. With my second delivery, like, that's another thing that they tried to get me to dilate faster. It wasn't working, and so I dilated very, very quickly with my third delivery. But anyway, I dilated from 6 centimeters to 9 centimeters in 8 minutes, and that never, ever, ever happened before. And so that's why I wasn't, like, expecting it, you know. Going for an unmedicated birth, I was like, okay, so these are the things that have happened in my previous births that I can expect. That is one thing that was not on the list. That was one thing that was not on the list, and that was so unfair to be able to go through that at the very last second, at the very last birth, and not know that, like, that was going to happen. And, like, I think that caught me for a whirl because I was not expecting it. I was not expecting that at all. With my other 2 deliveries, I had my water broken, and I never dilated that quickly. And with that third delivery, oh my goodness, that was rough. And then I also had an anterior lip. So essentially what happened the second birth happened in my third birth. It was just a little bit different because I couldn't push it out of the way that time because I did not have an epidural. So that was, like, very, very hard for me to, like, cope with. Okay, for now, the last part of this whole episode, I'm going to read an Am I the Asshole? It has been my favorite thing to listen to lately is podcasts with Am I the Asshole? So I have one about announcing a pregnancy. Am I the asshole for announcing my pregnancy? Hi, so a little bit of background. My husband and I have been married for a year and are 14 weeks pregnant. We have been together for 5 years total, currently 28 and 30. I have a pretty complex family dynamic in that I have 2 older sisters from my dad's side, then me. Then my parents separated when I was 9, got back together when I was 21, an entire drama. In that time, my mom had my little sister, and my dad had a little sister with previous partners. I in total have 4 sisters, aged 36 to 15. My parents are very happy together, and all of my siblings seem to get along with my parents, their step-parents. The issue has come that there is a view with my older sister that I am my dad's favorite. Due to being his only child with my mom, my oldest sister has been struggling with infertility for over 5 years. The next older sister has never been in a relationship and has previously called both of my parents and I perverts, as she believed we both love sex. While this isn't untrue, I still think it's a very odd relationship with it. My dad takes all of his children, his partner, and his daughter's partners on a family weekend every year. He pays. I found out I was 13 weeks pregnant, missed the early signs a week before the trip. My husband and I decided to wait until the trip, a week later, to tell my family, as all my immediate family would be there. I was especially excited to tell my mom. In the first night when we sat down for dinner, I basically said, "How would you feel if there was a baby surname here next year?" My mom got it and cried. My dad even cried, and everyone seemed happy. Today, in a group text with my 2 older sisters, they said that it was inconsiderate to the oldest sister, and that the older sister, as it was, rubbing it in. In addition, they said that it was proving that our dad cared about me and my mom more than them. Obviously, I cannot comment on the relationship with my dad and my mom. However, the actual pregnancy announcement, I feel so sad about. I obviously am excited and hope that they would be too. So am I the asshole for announcing my pregnancy to my family at the same time on a family weekend? There is an edit, and I said, "Thank you for all the comments for referencing my older sister. I love one another, but we are not close. My oldest sister is 8 years older than me, and the other is 6.5 years. My oldest sister specifically was gone by the time I was 10 and out of state, and I saw her 3 times a year on the past couple. I have seen her more, but we haven't had like a friend relationship." Okay, here's my thoughts on that. I think, and this might be my bias coming into it, because I have dealt with infertility in the past. It took us over a year to conceive my second baby, and I know how it felt when people would announce their pregnancies in front of everyone, and I was going through infertility. That was so hard. I think that even if you are not close with the person, if you're going to announce your pregnancy and you know that they're going through infertility, my personal opinion is you tell them in private. You tell them in private, say, hey, I just wanted to, especially over text. I love text pregnancy announcements when you're going through infertility because it gives them time to be like, oh, okay, and sit with their thoughts and not put those thoughts onto you, especially because now you have all of these people mad at you and thinking that you're just an inconsiderate bitch. And honestly, if you have someone in your life that is going through infertility and you find out you're pregnant, text them your pregnancy announcement. A lot of them do not want to be announced to in front of a room full of people while they are still trying to conceive and or going through IVF, all of that kind of stuff. Like, that is hard. As someone that has gone through infertility myself, I had 2 friends literally within the same week say, hey, we're trying to conceive. Do you have any tips? Because I had been sharing my journey online, and they were like, oh, thank you for all this advice. And they went on, and the very next month, literally days apart, they both text me and say, hey, I'm pregnant, just want you to know. And I sat with my feelings for about an hour each. I sat with my feelings and I cried. I was very upset that, like, 1 month into trying for these girls and they got it on the first month, and that was very hard. One of those girls is actually still one of my best friends, and I love her kid so much, but like in the moment, especially going through infertility, like that was very, very hard to hear that, like, hey, someone else got pregnant while you were trying to conceive, and like, yeah, that doesn't take away from you, but also, like, that's very hard. And I cannot imagine if I was in a room full of people and those 2 best friends of mine had announced their pregnancy while I was going through infertility. Like, that would have been so hard. That would have been a stab in the chest. So even if you're like not close with your sister, just like have a little bit of compassion, I guess. That's my hot take on it. That's my hot take, and I know a lot of people in the infertility community agree with me. Sending you a text is so much better than announcing in front of a huge room. That way, when you are all together, you can be like, hey, I'm pregnant, and the person that is going through infertility is not going to be shocked, not going to cry again. They can do that all within the comfort of their own home. So anyway, that is like my 2 cents on the whole thing. Let me know what you guys think. I also think that there is a lot of family drama that needs to just like be wrapped up in a little bow and like thrown in the garbage. I've been there. I had a dysfunctional family, okay? I've been there. Just all of those loose ends need to be tied up, and people need to go to therapy. Whether you go to family therapy or just like individual therapy is a whole other thing, but there is a lot of work to be done with all of these people. And I'm not saying that in a rude way, because I get it. Therapy has actually helped me a ton. And this is the end of the podcast. If you guys have any other questions, go over to my Instagram, leave them in my little inbox, or I will have like a little question box over on my stories that you guys can go input your questions, all of that kind of stuff. Let me know what you guys think about, am I the asshole? Is the person the asshole? I say yes and no, because obviously, like, it's your pregnancy, but also like have a little bit of compassion. So that's why I think you are the asshole. But anyway, I will leave you with this. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast episode. I love being over here. This is my 4th episode, and it is crazy that I am doing this. It's awesome, and it's so fun. It's a different way that I get to talk to you guys, and like, it's a long form content that I get to make for you guys, and I'm so happy for you guys to be over here. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. I am Kayla Natalie, and I am your birth doula at your cervix, and I will talk to you in my next podcast. Bye, guys.